Imagine trying to record the sum of human knowledge on a dead animal. For centuries, writing meant scraping heavy, cured skins and waiting for thick ink to dry. Materials like parchment and papyrus were prohibitively expensive and incredibly heavy. Copying a single text took months of physical labor. The 8th century Islamic Empire inherited vast territories stretching from Central Asia to North Africa, absorbing the ancient knowledge of the Greeks, Persians, Romans, and Indians. But they lacked a medium to efficiently record and share it. Because of this physical friction, information remained a luxury good, locked away in royal courts and isolated monasteries. The sheer weight of the materials bottlenecked human progress. That bottleneck finally broke when trade routes through Samarkand and Khorasan introduced a new technology from the east: paper. Made from linen and hemp, paper was cheaper to manufacture than parchment. It was lighter to transport across trade routes and far more flexible, making it much easier to bind into books. Looking at this ancient manuscript, you can see a crucial data security advantage. Unlike parchment, where ink sits on the surface and can be scraped off, paper absorbs the ink. It soaks directly into the fibers, making it nearly impossible to erase without destroying the page. That made it an ideal medium for permanent government records. This material upgrade acted as the technical spark, enabling the state to begin building an infrastructure designed for the mass production and distribution of information. The epicenter of this new industry was Abbasid Baghdad. Here in this medieval illustration, we see scholars surrounded by stacked bookshelves, representing a brand new labor force. People could now make a living entirely from the creation and sale of information, as copyists, bookbinders, and booksellers. The state recognized the value of this industry. The Abbasid Empire poured wealth into a formal translation movement, aiming to convert foreign texts into Arabic. The economic incentives were significant. Top-tier translators, like the Nestorian Christian physician Hunayn ibn Ishaq, commanded salaries equivalent to what modern professional athletes earn today to translate Greek, Syriac, and Sanskrit works. Driven by these massive state investments, Baghdad evolved from a political capital into a massive, multilingual data processing hub. But all this paper created a logistical problem. The state now needed specialized physical spaces to house this influx of translated data and put it to use. Rulers constructed the Bimaristan al-Nuri, seen here in Damascus, as a sophisticated hybrid institution: a clinical hospital, a public health facility, and a medical university, all housed in a single complex. To understand the scale of these hubs, the Ibn Tulun Hospital in Egypt eventually housed a library containing 100,000 volumes. Having access to that much documented knowledge allowed the state to implement systemic healthcare protocols. Caliphs began mandating strict medical licensing exams, requiring physicians to prove their mastery of the written literature before they were allowed to practice. Government inspectors referenced standardized manuals to test pharmacies for fake drugs. This manuscript folio illustrates figures operating a central funnel-like apparatus, providing clear evidence of how specific chemical distillation techniques and scientific methodologies were actively recorded and regulated. By pairing massive libraries directly with clinical practice, the Bimaristan translated theoretical data into applied public health. This accumulation of information extended beyond science. Rulers quickly learned how to apply it to politics. In 12th century Syria, the ruler Nur al-Din Zenki used the mass production of text to standardize Sunni education. By organizing what people read and studied, he pushed back against sectarian fragmentation across his territories. He heavily funded new law colleges, called madrasas, and specialized institutes like the Dar al-Hadith. These schools turned out a highly educated administrative elite who were loyal to the state apparatus. Nur al-Din demonstrated a political reality that still holds true. Controlling the flow of information is the most efficient way to control a state. By this point, Arabic had become the universal lingua franca of both trade and science. It acted as the baseline code for a rapidly expanding network. We can trace this physical flow of data. Bundles of paper and books pulsed outward from Baghdad along established trade routes into Damascus and Cairo. From there, the network continued across North Africa, reaching its western point in Al-Andalus on the Iberian Peninsula. This architectural wealth belongs to the Mosque Cathedral of Córdoba. Fueled by this steady stream of texts and scholars, the city grew into Europe's largest urban center and a world hub of education. Through paper and a shared language, the Islamic Empire successfully built history's first cross-continental information highway. Compare this reality to the era of parchment. Knowledge was no longer hoarded by a few elites in dark, isolated rooms. The widespread availability of texts enabled societal shifts. It allowed for the creation of the first public universities, highly organized public hospitals, and a globally connected scientific community. We often credit the printing press with the democratization of information. But centuries before that technology arrived, the Islamic world was already mass-producing texts by hand, moving data at a volume that changed history. The paper revolution demonstrated a fundamental rule. When information is made cheap and abundant, the rate of human discovery accelerates.